Sadly, Face ID is not coming to the MacBook Pro anytime soon. Welcome everybody to Apple Insider. It is Andrew here, and you can find me on Twitter at Andrew_OSU. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of my videos. If there's one feature I think Apple has nailed, it's been Face ID. Face ID on iPhone and iPad has only gotten better over time, with Apple introducing a second generation module that was faster, and an upcoming update to iPhone will even allow you to use Face ID while wearing a mask. It'll authenticate just around your eyes to still unlock your iPhone and authenticate payments while part of your face is covered. Unfortunately, while iPhones have gotten better, the Mac has been stagnant. Apple is still using Touch ID on the MacBook Pros, on the MacBook Air, and heck, even on the latest iMacs. But Face ID has been nowhere to be found. And, based on recent reports, it doesn't look like that's changing anytime soon. During one of his recent columns, Mark Gurman has said that Apple was considering putting Face ID into the M1 24-inch iMac, but never got around to it. The reason Apple has not put Face ID into the MacBook Air or the MacBook Pro, though, is because, according to Gurman, the technology just doesn't exist. Apple is unable to make the technology for Face ID small enough to fit in the MacBook Pro's display. The MacBook Pro has an incredibly slim top that is much slimmer than what we have on our iPhones. And because of that, the only way to put Face ID into a MacBook Pro is to increase the thickness of the top of the Mac. And Apple is just unwilling to make that compromise. Face ID would be a great feature to have on the Mac. Imagine being able to enter passwords, unlock your Mac, and more without having to move your fingers from the trackpad and keyboard to the Touch ID module. It may sound small, but if you're moving quickly, it can be a real pain in the butt to move your hand that much. Seriously, first world problems though. Face ID would be nice, and Windows has been doing this a while with Windows Hello. But Windows Hello is not nearly as secure as Face ID is on iPhone and iPad. So it's no wonder that Apple is, again, unwilling to compromise and offer a watered-down solution just to fit in the space constraints. That's why Apple's continued to use Touch ID as its biometric authentication rather than Face ID. As I said, Gurman mentioned that Apple did consider putting Face ID into the M1 24-inch iMac. And I think that is still where we'll likely see Face ID end up on the Mac, inside of one of Apple's larger displays. The 24-inch iMac is plenty thick enough, as should be the upcoming 27-inch iMac/iMac Pro, whatever Apple decides to call it. That display also would be thick enough, and that may be where we see it since it is aimed towards pros. That or even a cheaper version of Apple's actual displays. Apple's Pro Display XDR is very expensive and already out there. We may see a cheaper version that has Face ID built in. But again, I think the iMac or an iMac Pro is where Face ID will end up first on the Mac. All we know for now is that Face ID is unlikely to show up in the MacBook Air or MacBook Pro anytime soon. I think it'll get there eventually. We're just gonna have to wait a little while longer. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments or over on Twitter at Andrew_OSU. Do you want to see Face ID on the Mac? Let me know. Stay tuned, subscribe, and turn on notifications. I'll see you guys in the next video.